it comes back to my dad teaching me about the bamboo tree. I don't know if you've ever heard the story. The bamboo tree, when you plant it, you have to water it every single day, no matter what. You have to nurture it, and nothing sprouts for 5 years. For 5 years, you gotta water it. You gotta talk to it. You gotta love it, like as if it was growing, right? If you miss a day, it's not gonna grow as tall as what it would have if you didn't miss a day. So after the 5 years, it shoots 90 feet tall.
Wow.
Okay, and you think about that in business, right? So I always tell people, just because you're not seeing the results that you expect, because people have this instant gratification mindset nowadays. They want it now, right?
Yep.
But business doesn't work that way. Obviously, the leader or the person that is, building the business really has to set the standard and the culture.
Right.
Because people will be more than willing, to work and grow the company when they know that the person that is actually building it cares. They don't care how much you know. They just want to know how much you care about them.
You're listening to Musings with Morales. Brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.
Welcome to Musings with Morales. I'm Morales. This is my guest, Gisella Vasquez. Welcome, Gisella. Thank you for coming out on a late, mid-evening Wednesday.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Excited to be here. Appreciate it.
So we met, on the onset of COVID. We were introduced from some mutual friend. We ended up kind of striking an accord in regard to, being entrepreneurial, but maybe also just really wanting to help people in their entrepreneurial efforts as well. We haven't had anything that's stuck to the wall yet, but I know that there's going to be something that comes up. Some of the more exciting opportunities in the more recent history have crossed my desk as a result of your connections, your introduction. Just been really inspired by the way that you approach business, you approach people, and the consistent way that you're able to bring these sort of opportunities to the table. So with that, I think we've got an audience that is pretty like-minded, and we've all got our own story. But like, if you were to tell your story, and I'll ask you the same way that I've asked you in the past, is if there were a table of contents on Gisella Vasquez, what would the headings look like? Major headings, I guess. And what are the good stories and the bad stories, or maybe the things you like to talk about headings-wise and the things you don't like to talk about heading-wise? Maybe we'll need to get into details there if you don't like to talk about them.
Okay, sure. So like I wanted to share, one of these quotes that now that you asked me that question, the heading that comes to mind is a quote by Mark Twain that says, the two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. So I know I was born in New York. My mom's a doctor. My dad is a master mechanic at Lexus. And me and my brother are only 11 months apart. And at a year old, we moved to Florida. And from Florida, we lived in Coral Springs, which is in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And we lived there until I was 10 years old, right? During those years, I never understood why it was only like mom was around, dad wasn't there, dad was around, mom wasn't there. And me and my brother, would be with the babysitter. I never really understood the sacrifices that they had to make to give me and my brother a better life. And I realized it later on in life, what they had to do so that we can, actually have a good life. They had to make a lot of sacrifices. We actually moved to the Philippines, Cebu, Philippines, when I was 10, and I finished high school, college, and then moved back here to LA.
That's crazy. So 10 years old, moving from the U.S. to the Philippines. I made my first trip there in my life, actually, just recently, and it was pretty insightful. What was it like for you at 10 years old to leave what you had and move to this new place in the world?
If I look back, I don't think I would change anything. I wouldn't change it. Is because it gave me the opportunity to have the best of both worlds and experience, two types of, living in a third world country in a first world kind of country where, America is is the land of the free and, opportunity.
Yeah.
So, but moving there, I think it was a bit of a culture shock in the beginning because the language barrier, the heat, most especially.
Did you speak the language when you went there, or?
I understood a little bit. So in Cebu, we speak Bisaya or Cebuano. I didn't know much Tagalog because we didn't speak it at home, but I understood it. Then I kind of caught on quickly. It was fun is because we lived with our cousins in the beginning.
Okay.
So my dad decided to move back to the Philippines because he wanted to put up his own business. He was kind of sick and tired of working for somebody else. He wanted to have time for his family and see his kids actually grow up. That was one thing growing up. I always remembered him saying, "Is like, man, you guys are getting so big already. I don't have time with you. Like, I wanna be able to have the time and see you, be there for you." So when we moved to the Philippines, imagine this: we lived in my grandparents' house for the first 5-6 years, and my mom and my grandfather's clinic was next door.
Oh wow!
And then my dad's business was next door. So he built,
close by. Everybody's close by.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got a chance to see my dad actually build a business, and also at the same time see my mom and my grandfather run their clinic and volunteer. So it was a good experience where I got to, it inspired me to kind of like be in entrepreneurship and be a business owner and at the same time dive into the medical field as well.
So the plan was at 10 years old, your parents, the need to keep up, right, kept them from focusing or being able to have all the time that they wanted. The move to the Philippines was to get that time back. Success? That was a success?
That was a success because although he was building a business, because of the setup, we were just like right there. Like, and we would be there after school, and he would be able to take us anywhere. And it was like very close niche kind of setup. So he would be able to go to games. I remember before, like I had ballet recital back when. It's funny because I still remember like when I was 3 years old, conversations. And I remember from 1 to 10, like there were moments that my mom and my dad were not able to come to like ballet recitals or like games. And then from 10 to 20, there were moments where they were actually present and physically there, which made a big difference.
That's cool. Yeah. And that really, I guess, strikes a chord with me because it's something that I've always battled with. And I think I've had that set up. Like you mentioned, your parents having the setup in the Philippines where there's the time there. But you can also be present and not be present, right? And that's something I have to work on more is like being actually present in the moments, even though like there's physical proximity to somebody. It's not always actually time invested and memories made outside of just smelling each other, right? So 10 to 20s in the Philippines, you went through college there. What did you focus on in your studies there?
I went to nursing school. It wasn't my first choice. My mom being a doctor and my grandmother being a nurse, like I came from a family of doctors. I actually wanted to be a chef.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to go to culinary school because my grandma taught me how to cook and I loved baking and cooking. My mom says, you in order to be rich as a chef, you have to have your own business, work at a very prestigious, restaurant or put up your own restaurant yourself. And she said, you should become a nurse because a nurse can always be a businesswoman, but a businesswoman can never be a nurse.
That's a great point, actually.
Yeah. And that stuck with me. So,
so you went through your bachelor's in nursing in the Philippines? And what was your experience in the Philippines with nursing?
Oh, man, it's different. Like I hear my friends talk about their nursing experience here and my nursing experience back home. We wore uniforms. We had to have our hair in a bun with a cap. We had to wear like nursing uniforms. And we went to clinicals and there was a pre-test, a post-test, and then you couldn't, get out of the classroom unless you passed the test.
Oh,
yeah.
You're there until you
can take it can go on.
You're gonna be here till you succeed, huh?
Yes, and it was interesting because we would actually do the procedures like we had return demonstrations, but the procedures were like hands-on, like the enema. You had to actually do it on your
Who's volunteering for that? Like
everybody had to do it.
Oh God!
Everybody had to have their turn. Yeah,
but I knew there was a reason I didn't go into nursing. Like,
but actually, I look back and I say, you know what, that it really helped because it really built a muscle.
Yeah.
Like you have to be relentless.
I don't know why that makes me chuckle.
Yeah, it builds a muscle in you, like
Yeah.
like you got to do whatever it takes to pass because they cut you. They like if you don't
Yeah.
have a certain grade, you get cut from the class.
Well, that's a great culture to build early. Is like there's a consequence to being mediocre or subpar, right? Something that I think about in your transition in the world is like a 10-year-old in the U.S. today making that sort of change. Like, do you think it's any different from when you were 10? Because I have a 10-year-old, and the way of life he has here, I'm not sure how, you mentioned that it was drastically different, but I'm not sure how well he would adapt to that, moving across the world, the amenity type of differences. Although I think affluent families in the Philippines can also have like really wonderful lives. So what do you think about somebody in today's era making that change?
I think it can be done. It might be difficult, but the thing that my parents definitely did do was they pre-framed us early on. They kept on instilling like 2-3 years before we actually made the move that this is what's going to happen. So we kind of had that in our heads that, okay, we got to like mentally, not just physically prepare, but mentally prepare that, we are actually going to move. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth during summer to my parents to test the waters.
So they were prepping you up.
Prepping us, yeah.
Did you have to learn different manners? Did you have to learn?
Yes.
It was different.
Especially because me and my brother now had to sleep in one room because our house was still being built. But to kind of go on what you were saying about the comfortability, the difference, it was different because here in the United States, we do like your parents do everything. You do the dishes, you wash the clothes. Over back home, you have somebody to help you. Helpers. You have somebody to pick you up. You have a driver. So it was different in that sense. And there was always somebody cooking for you. So I mean, as a little kid, it's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah. It sounds like your family was blessed in that regard, as far as the means to provide different sort of things that we don't have here in the U.S., right? Like we think the American dream, right? But like I saw people in the Philippines that to me like, holy crap, that's like, I didn't know there was a Philippine dream, but like it's like the same, like to have a driver, a cook, a nanny, maids, bodyguard, all these sort of things. Like, wow, that's kind of it's kind of a trip.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. And my parents asked me, "Why are you still here in the United States?"
Oh, really? So they're still in the Philippines.
They're in the Philippines, yeah.
What was the transition from nursing? You had some experience working as a nurse in the Philippines as well.
No.
So you only schooling.
Only went to school. I took the NCLEX right after I graduated.
In the Philippines.
In the Philippines.
Okay.
So I never worked in the Philippines actually because I took the NCLEX. Then when I moved to LA. And the reason why I chose LA, because in the beginning I didn't want to move to the United States. And I said, okay, LA is only a 12-hour trip back home versus everywhere else.
So easy route back, huh?
Yeah, so I picked LA.
Wait,
I moved
12
here.
12 hours, is that all it is?
Yeah, 12 hours. If it's a direct flight from LA to Cebu, 12 hours.
So you came here on your own with some of your other family?
My mom dropped me off here. She stayed with me for 3 months.
Dropped you off?
Yeah,
huh?
she said, now it's time to make something of yourself. I put you through school. And I was kind of lagging it. I didn't want to give her my NCLEX results.
Oh, good.
Because then I knew for sure that I would have to move.
Start adulting, huh?
Yeah, I would have to. And I was 20 years old, and when you're in the Philippines, here in the United States, life kind of starts when you're 18, right? You get exposed to like the clubs and all that. There it starts at like 12.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of like over that. But we moved here when I was 20. My mom stayed with me for 3 months. And then she left, and then I got my first job through her classmate owned a facility. I had no experience, so they took me in, and I learned everything there. Till this day, I think those nurses, I'm still friends with them, the supervisors that actually taught me how to be a real nurse.
Did you develop a specialty there, or?
So it was a short-term rehab.
Okay.
First, and then I quickly got into case management, assistant DON, more leadership roles.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to be in the action, and in critical care. So I got a job at City of Hope in the ICU, and I stayed there for a while, and then until I transitioned after my car accident, chapter 2 of my book.
So
chapter
that's
2.
All right.
So the day you were born, right, and then now the day you find out why.
Yeah.
So if I go into it, when I was working as a nurse, I was working 3 jobs. You're probably thinking, man, she must be crazy.
I don't know if you're old enough to know the show In Living Color.
No.
She's like, no.
What is that?
So there was a character on that show. He's a Jamaican guy, and they're like stereotyping a Jamaican person. I think that's what they were doing on the show. But he said, "Hey man," like he would always say, "Hey man," and he's like, "You only got 2 jobs? What are you, lazy?" So again, one of the things I've always appreciated about you is just the constant grind. And I know you after this transition, so you were holding 3 jobs.
3 jobs. I worked a night shift at the ICU, and then my first job didn't want to let me go. They said, whatever you want to do, we come here on one day, half a day.
Yeah.
We just want you here. So I did, like MDS coordination
Yep.
on the weekends, and then I did 1 shift at Kindred as a charge nurse.
So what is MDS?
Minimum data. Let me take a sip. Yeah. Ask me again.
That's not getting cut.
Oh, it's not.
What's the MDS?
It stands for minimum data set.
All right. So again, you helped the short-term rehab
Yes.
organization to justify payment. Is that a
Yes.
right way to say it?
Yes, and they had to make sure that documentation, proper lingo, and treatments were being done, that it aligned with the diagnosis, with
Yeah.
the ICD codes, for billing,
Yeah.
to get reimbursed, to get payment.
So I'm sorry to stick on this, but I just like to stick on like sometimes career paths. And I think a lot of nurses out there, like they don't really know where they want to go, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I want to be a nurse. Well,
There's a lot
yeah, it's such a great profession because there's so many.
avenues you can take.
I mean, you're like you said, it seemed like you gravitated towards leadership, towards the actual business side of it.
IT nurse. I was an IT nurse. I was a super user. Helped build the EMR for hospitals.
Yeah, so more operation. I mean, you're very detail oriented, obviously, right? Then there's like those that like to, you said, be in the action. They like blood and they like pus and they like,
I like to be in the action.
complications and
Critical
codes and things
care,
like this, right? And then there's like a lot of nurses today that they don't want to do any of that. They want to do all aesthetics and wellness and things like that.
Correct.
So there's so many angles to go. But when I think about like when I ran a skilled nursing facility, that again was one of the better paying positions, hard to recruit for. So it sounds like you were focused in those areas. Like, what's the pathway to get to that mindset? Is it that you grew up with business, or is it something else that influenced you?
I would say both. I would say, definitely like the people around me that, were always striving to do better, get to better positions so you get higher pay. Because I was taught that, you have to work harder in order to make more money. And when I looked at the different, positions as a nurse, the ones that were making more money were either in leadership, they were either supervisors, charge nurses. So I tried to see, okay, if I'm going to start at whatever entry level I can start at, and then strive to kind of go through each different position to get to the top, kind of thing. And the goal was always to either become a nurse anesthetist, that was the plan. You know, my mom wanted me to become. She said that's like an
High
easy,
dollar, yeah.
yeah,
High dollar
that's the
nurse,
highest
yeah.
paying. You know,
Yep. What, that
nursing
like 350, 400 right now,
correct.
something like that?
Yes, but I was happy with, you know, working in the ICU because I got the action through, you know, like critical care situations, but also, you know, being able to help out the hospital, you know, with quality control.
Yeah.
And I got to actually see a lot of the different positions that a nurse can have through the different hospitals I worked at, and I had a taste of a little everything from IT to data to charge nurse to bedside, but there's a lot.
Dangerous nurse. You know, somebody that I think when you hire somebody like that, it's dangerous to not keep them around because you start to wear so many hats, right? And that's kind of the need for today, right? With
Yeah.
shortages is
Oh,
nurses that
yeah.
can serve many different aspects of the
Absolutely, yeah.
service from the organization. So you mentioned that you know, chapter 2, like how do we make this transition, or what brought
happened?
about the transition? Yeah.
Okay, so I was working 3 jobs. The goal was actually, right, work 10 years to get, you know, my mom said I have to work a minimum of 10 years so I can get Social Security. Like, that's going to exist when I retire, right? But 10 years, I said, okay, if I work more, I get to save more. But then I didn't really know that I was in a position I ended up spending more because I felt like I deserved it, all the work, you know, the hard work. One day I woke up, actually it was February 9, 2014. I can remember it very clearly. 1 mile away from the house, I got T-boned in the intersection.
Okay.
Misaligned my spine, ended up with a head concussion. My head concussion, you know, I ended up having really bad seizures. I would faint every other week, and they didn't really understand why, and it was probably because of the impact from the head concussion. I had a C5 and C6 tear on my cervical spine.
Oh, God.
That I couldn't feel my hands, my arms would get numb, a lot of tingling. I couldn't grip a lot. And so I said, man, my life is over. I can't be a nurse anymore. It just like completely changed like this in a snap of a finger. And when I look back, I can remember it clearly, all those thoughts that go through your mind.
I bet.
Like, who am I? Like, what am I going to do? What is going to happen? Like, how am I going to make money if I can't be a nurse? I can't work anymore. Like, if that happens, you know, if you know, I can't perform. I can't even hold, like, you know, the needle or serve my patient. What am I, or who am I? And I think that was a wake-up call, because I allowed my identity to be my profession.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah. I didn't really know who I was, because growing up, my mom always told me, like, okay, this is what you're going to do. But I never asked myself, like, who do I want to be, or who do I want to become, or what kind of life do I actually want to live? And I fell down a pretty deep hole because I was actually lost. Like, I thought I had everything planned out. Yeah. I honestly thought I was going to work 10 years. That year that it happened, I actually saved like $120,000 working, you know, the 3 jobs. Yeah. And since I wanted to be a chef, I said, okay, I'm going to prove my mom wrong. I'm going to put up my own restaurant, and I'm going to like make sure it's successful, right? But I had no clue about how to run a business, like where to even begin. I was just very passionate and, you know, impulsive. Like, I would make decisions just like that without thinking things through. So that same year I got into my car accident, I put up my restaurant in the Philippines.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah,
it's called Mrs. Jones Meal Box because it was on Jones Avenue, right next to the school. And it was exciting because I was like, man, this is like the start. Like, okay, we're just gonna start small, and then when you're putting up a business, you don't realize what it takes, actually.
Yeah. And restaurants, pretty damn hard one.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I didn't think it through. Like, I just put the money in. I put the people together, and I thought it would be, you know, I thought it would work how I planned it to work, you know, in my head, right? But 6 years went by. You know, if you're not physically there, it's not going to run the way you want it to run. Yeah. And, you know, the people that you trust, you know, something's bound to happen. And if you don't have a business plan or a system to actually make it profitable, I've found out that the restaurant industry, you know, I didn't even make back the money I put in. It had to close down 6 years after.
6.
6 years after, yeah.
So was it one
Just
injection for you, or
It was.
did you have to
no.
keep bleeding
It was
through those 6
it
years?
was the big injection in the beginning. The money was to put up, to build out the restaurant, to hire, to buy all the equipment.
I'm curious about the hiring. Like, how did you go about that? And
So I had my uncle that was he was actually a chef that helped me run it, and my parents kind of played a role, but not. They said, okay, this is your project. Like
Yeah.
you do your thing. It was more of like my uncle helped me out like with the hiring because I wasn't there physically, so I just trusted everything that he said that he would take care of on that end. So, but it was the main idea was behind it. It was home cooked meals with like a twist, with a modern twist. So, when you go home, everybody loves a home cooked meal, right?
Oh yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Filipino food is
Yeah.
like comfort food for me, but it had like a twist to it. So, it felt homey, but like it was.
What was the twist?
The twist was like so, like let's say tapsilog, right? I don't know if you know what tapsilog
Yeah, I
is.
do, yep.
But it was the way it was presented or the way it was set up. It was more aesthetically pleasing versus
Okay. Got you.
just like on a regular
Yeah,
plate.
not just tasting good, but looking good.
Looking good, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's
But it was affordable too, so that like somebody that's going to school can eat it, but have like a good place to like hang out, study. That was the atmosphere there in the restaurant.
so 6 years initial injection.
Yeah.
Some more money that
Lost
went into
money.
it, and
Lost a lot of
just
money.
you mentioned platform and systems. Was
Yes.
that the missing ingredient, or?
I would say, I don't think we did a lot of market research in the with the competition, and it's a hard business, especially if you're new to it or you're not really in the business of restaurants, because I don't know about here in the United States, but in the Philippines, it's good in the beginning. Because everybody's like, oh, it's new, it's a fad, but then it kind of fades out. Especially if you're in a location, because location matters.
Yeah.
If you have Jollibee next door or kind of
Right,
thing,
right.
you have a lot of competition.
I thought Jollibee was like the dominant force in the world, but like I found there was other places in the Philippines where they were just as popular.
Yeah.
Like with chicken, which was pretty interesting because
Yeah.
I actually like Jollibee.
And one thing is that I wasn't there, so the way you run your business, you can't expect anybody else to run it the way that you do.
Oh, that 100%. So why I was interested in the hiring is just participated in an acquisition in the Philippines, but also still thinking about others. And one that I'm thinking about investing in, that's actually one of my major concerns is, not being there. I noticed that there's a lot of resources thrown at things in the Philippines when it comes to business, that like, a restaurant that would have 2 servers here in the US would have like 10 in the Philippines. So I kind of think about efficiency, but then does it lose, the culture? If you run it like a U.S. business, as far as the amount of resources you throw at people, then people are stretched thin and they can't. I don't know if they can maintain the culture that I was like so blown away with in the Philippines.
I think when you run a business, like to sustain it, to have like when you hire, obviously the leader or
Yeah.
the person that is building the business really has to set the standard and the culture.
Right.
Because people will be more than willing, to work and grow the company when they know that the person that is actually building it cares. They don't care how much you know. They just want to know how much you care about them. And, I always believe in, giving a piece of the pie, because to the people that you do end up hiring, is because they'll treat it like their own.
Yeah.
And I'm a very big believer
Skin
in
in the
that.
game
Yeah,
helps,
they have-
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Kind of brings us to, I think,
What I do now.
almost to the present day, because
Yeah.
I mean, we have the injury.
yes.
how did
Oh,
you
man.
transition from nursing, bedside, even leadership into where are we at today?
So
If that's the only transition, maybe there's something in
So
between.
during my journey from the accident, I was fortunate enough that somebody, a good friend of mine, actually introduced me to an opportunity in the financial industry before my accident. And I was very opposed to it in the beginning because I was like, I think I'm doing the right thing. I'm saving money. I'm putting money in my 401k. But I finally said yes to listen. And when I listened, I said, man, I should have listened and should have came to knowing these concepts faster and earlier, when he first introduced it. But I was just very stubborn. I didn't want to take a look. So when I finally did and I learned it, I said, everybody needs to know this. Like it's so powerful, like what they were teaching me about rule of 72, like how our money gets taxed, how to maximize our savings, all that stuff. And as a young nurse working 3 jobs, I just didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing the right things,
Yep.
right? But I didn't have a clue. So then my accident happened. Like I said earlier, I was in a very dark place because I was like, I was the only one here. I told my parents, but I didn't want to worry them. And my mom is very strong. Like she's a very I compared my mom and my dad. My dad is more lambing. I don't know. So lambing is like sweet, like he'll baby you. My mom is
Okay.
like she don't take anything. Like you got to be strong. Like any sign of weakness is like looked down on. So I remember that conversation we had, and she said, and I think this was only a month in to my accident. She said, just get over it.
Oh, wow.
Just get over it. Life goes on. It's either you sink or you swim. What are you going to do? And I wasn't really looking for that answer in that moment. I was trying to be vulnerable.
Super tough love, yeah.
Yeah, super tough love.
Yeah.
And after that, I shut down. I didn't talk to her. I didn't, our relationship was kind of like not in a good spot.
Kind of gave a blow to you. Huh?
Yeah, because all I was looking for, and I was only 26. I felt like I was still a baby. I don't know. Like I didn't have anybody to turn to, and I was just looking for comfort. That I went down a really bad path. Like I ended up blowing my money. I was like, okay, fuck. sorry for my language.
No, yeah, we're all good.
I was like, fuck this. Like I'm just gonna enjoy. I don't care. Like I was kind of like a little bit reckless.
Yeah.
I would party, I would drink, I would so I don't feel anything because I didn't want to feel the pain or the responsibility of what am I going to do next. I didn't want the weight on me that I just kind of went into a depressive mode and just reckless mode.
Yeah.
And there was a day that, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, oh my gosh, I can't even recognize the person that I'm looking at. Like I was like skin and bones and the relationships I had, everything was falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I had people in my life that, even though I was mean to them because I was like, I wasn't in the right mind frame, my mindset wasn't right.
Yeah.
They kept on like pouring belief into me. And I remember going back to that opportunity that they brought me to an environment that actually changed the way I saw life. And they say, you can never change people, but you can always bring them to a life-changing event.
Yeah.
So that was really big for me because they put me in a room with people that were winning because I was like the party pooper. Like I was like, I'm trying to like pity myself. Like, and my life's going to going, like I don't know what to do with my life. And I was just like spending recklessly. And when they brought me to the environment and I saw all these people, heard all these stories of people like actually winning and they've been through way worse situations than me and I'm here sitting in the audience and I'm like, man, I shouldn't even be acting this way. I should actually get my life together. And so I saw it as an opportunity to actually help people because I said to myself, maybe my spine got misaligned, but I think this is a way of God showing me like I got to realign my life to like what He really wants me to do, and it led me to knowing like what I'm most passionate about. I love helping people, but how can I use the things that I've been through, like going through depression, all like the hardships, like the little decisions you make in those moments that you're like do I continue living or do I do not? Like it's gone that deep kind of situation. Like the little decisions you make, can help somebody else. Like that might be going through that same situation.
Oh yeah.
Right. And your story can be powerful and impactful if I share it. So I realized that, maybe God put me in this situation to help others that are going through the same thing, either financially, mentally, maybe they've gone through some, hardships, depression, that I can help them. So I said, okay, what can I do that doesn't require me to go back to 4 years of school? And I said, okay, this opportunity is, it's easy, it's simple. I've benefited from it, meaning they taught me how to deal with my money, to prepare for a better financial future, how to get out of debt. Because I ended up in $80,000 medical bill debt.
Oh, wow.
Because my insurance went into COBRA. And I still needed EEGs. I still needed the medication and all that stuff. And so I couldn't pay for it anymore because
you were partying it all up.
Yeah, it was it's crazy. It's true.
Hey, trust me, I know about having important things to pay off and choosing to just live it off instead.
But it comes back to you. It all it's gonna, one way or another, it's gonna catch up.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we keep mentioning this, leading horses to water, but not being able to make them drink, right? Mm-hmm. And it's you're sharing, all of those different experiences in your life. Like you said, somebody could have been going through the same thing, or could be going through the same thing. It's still up to them to listen and to apply. And one of the things that I love to do here is that, with the people that we bring in as guests, that there's a diverse group of people, right? And my story may not make sense to somebody, similar. I think everybody in life has had, points of depression. Some of us have went, way down rabbit holes with that depression to need help, right? To avoid and kind of dodge bullets, almost literally in some cases, right? So, I love that you're willing to share that story, that you're willing to expose that there are times, because what I know of you is not that. I've always seen this pristine, I want to be like this person. Now, how do you get to be that person that everybody wants to be like, that people will listen to, right? It's endurance, it's perseverance, it's taking lessons from sometimes losses, right? So tell me about, that loss of identity, coming into this new realization, this insight on a new way to help, because that's what you've been focused on pretty much since conception, right? What's your lens on, with the financial savviness that you have today, the tools that you have in your hands? What's your lens on purpose today? Is it still chapter 2, or is it now at chapter?
It's going to chapter 3.
Going to chapter 3. All right.
So chapter 2 is more of a finding purpose, right? Mm-hmm. Finding purpose, why am I here? Before we go to chapter 3, one pivotal moment was that moment I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, "Oh my God, who am I?" kind of thing, trying to find myself. Good friends of mine actually, kept on pouring belief into me and brought me to church. And although I grew up in a very religious household, I didn't really understand it, and I didn't really understand higher power or there's a God, or I would sit in church and sometimes fall asleep. I'll be honest, that was it growing up. But I never had a relationship with God until I found myself at a moment in my life where I had no other choice but to surrender. This, I have no control over what happens. Right. I went to church and I realized that God is in control. I have to give him the wheel back. I can't be the one to drive anymore. Yeah. And so
stop trying to grab the wheel when you're not getting anything done anyways, right?
And I think it was I said to myself, okay, I opened the Bible, right? And it was Jeremiah 29:11, I think it was. for the plans I have for you are not of like harm or defeat. It's a future and a hope. I can't say word
Paraphrase
for
Gisella.
Yeah,
Paraphrase Gisella.
But when I read it, I said, man, I know God doesn't want me to suffer, but he's wants me to go through something. It's like a test, so that it could be a testimony in the future to somebody else. But as I was going through that, and leading to the chapter 3 part of our discussion, is that, okay, I am not my past, right? The failures, the insecurities, the traumas, or like when you're growing up as a child, and that's a whole different story that
Right.
that has effects on every adult. But
Yeah.
that's not who I am. Where I currently am is not where I'm going. What's important is like what's gonna happen next, right? The decision that I make next. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna I know that I love helping people. Now I have to figure out what's the platform or the business that's going to help me get there to spread the word of like helping them or sharing my story or God's mission, why he put me on earth. And I said, okay, because the opportunity came at the same time, it was kind of like a sign that, okay, you have more people to help, financially, like teaching them about how to prepare because you've gone through it all. You've
Right.
made money.
Yeah.
You didn't know what to do with it. You've lost it all.
Yeah.
You've been in debt. You've kind of like went through the trenches, and now because you've experienced it, you're now able to empathize and, relate to more people that are going through it too. So I said, okay, who is my audience, right? So obviously, as a nurse, we learn how to dissect a frog, but nobody teaches us how to balance a checkbook, right? Or like how to pay less taxes, or how to, what does a 401k even mean? Like they tell you invest into it, put money into it, but who really knows what it is? So I said,
I got to ask you when you say let's pay less taxes. So, we're in an interesting year, right?
yes,
So without going down those roads of, the what is it, the aisle, right? Is it a bad thing to want to pay less taxes?
no,
I mean, and
I don't think so.
When is it appropriate to be saying that? Because, there are different tax brackets, right?
yes.
They're, based off income. So like, when's it appropriate to be saying like, I really want to find every method possible to pay less taxes, and what's the fine line of righteousness versus, I guess, being shady?
Obviously, tax evasion is we have to pay our fair share. That's all I tell people. But there are loopholes legal loopholes that everybody can use. People are just not aware of it. That they can utilize to, keep more of their hard-earned income, right? They don't teach it to us in school. Like, W-2 individuals, that you pay the highest taxes. Like you have there's no way around it. Like unless you implement certain strategies that can help you lower your taxes, what you can write off,
Right.
by having a business on the side, or buying a house, or just the little things that people do, and why the rich get richer and the poor, or just stay where they're at because they're indoctrinated in the education that this is how it's supposed to be, right? But it's all, you can find things on the internet like what somebody can do to lower your taxes. Now, to stay in line with things like you mentioned, like yes, everybody can pay less if they do it right. Because I've seen some nurses that they're implementing some things that are not right. Like they'll put like 10 dependents and they don't have 10 dependents.
So
that's not right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. How many years does that last? So I remember when I was young, like, how many can I claim? Okay, I want to claim them all, and like, I'll do that for half the year, and then, then I'll put 0 for the rest or something like that. But I think I claimed 10 at one point.
I know, and people do it until today. But like, I got audited twice.
Really?
I got audited twice. I was making
God,
180.
I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
Any of that juju.
So it's important to know. And I didn't really know. I really didn't know anything because I just thought, oh, I'm going to get a big tax refund.
We're going to have to sage this whole office when you leave now. You said that word, right?
But there are, there's a point where, you just have to be at least knowledgeable on what you're doing or what your tax person is doing so that you don't end up in a bad position.
So can I kind of lead with a couple sayings or maybe one and then see how you interpret this.
Okay.
So as a nurse, you were initially like in the action. So I'll call that in the weeds, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're on this trajectory of looking at the business, looking at, how do these companies make money and how do they sustain the ability to provide care, right? So we'll call that more of a horizontal view.
Okay.
Right? And then on the financial side, as a nurse, like we're in the weeds. I'm not a nurse, sorry, I should say. Sometimes just, we'll call it blue collar.
Okay.
If that's appropriate for a nurse, I'm not sure. But let's call it just,
working class.
Working class, right? We're down in the weeds, right? We're not looking horizontal, so it's like, let me make more money. I don't necessarily know about the ways to really, what are new laws, what are new, if it's the right word to call it, loopholes or methods to strategizing taxation, right? And then as a financial professional now, you are again horizontal, looking at like, how does all that work? Let me get my head out of the weeds. Let me find platforms and systems to really help more people to navigate that whole world of taxation, saving for retirement, preparing for circumstance that unexpected circumstance. So it's something that, even people we know in common have told me. I'll think about like during COVID running public health operation and an operator from the Philippines telling me, Morales, I need dashboards. And you need to get out of the weeds and be able to look from the balcony, like see things from the balcony. So, when do we do that? Like when does the college graduate start to look from the balcony? Because there's a certain value in the weeds, isn't there?
Yes.
Like you said, you knew every aspect of being a nurse for the most part, right? So when's the appropriate time? Is there an appropriate time to be thinking about looking from the balcony or looking from a horizontal view or going higher level to really see all the details?
I would say, that's a good question. I would say whatever level somebody's at, either entry level or, higher level, everybody should have a plan. Everybody should have a plan. And the challenge is most people, they don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And every move that somebody makes, regardless what, starting point or not, there has to be a goal. Like, what's the next goal? And taking a look in a financial sense, like, if I'm answering your question right, in a financial sense, as somebody that's starting, like a new grad, their biggest challenge is, okay, their debt and their school loans, right? Yeah. So, okay, how can I get out of that debt faster? There has to be a plan in place. And, because you can't just be working 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road and you're just like, oh, shoot, where did my whole life go?
Yeah.
And what did I do?
Yeah.
Every milestone has to have everything has to have like a plan, a 1-year plan, 2, 3, 5-year plan. And then when you get, if you're in the next phase of your life, okay, like retirement, I used to think, man, retirement's so far away.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get there. I'll cross the bridge when I get there. But whatever you do
Gets
today,
closer every year, right?
Yeah. Whatever you do today, your future self will thank you for.
Yeah.
So saving small today, even if it's $5 a day, like I would spend on Starbucks because I worked night shift because I needed a coffee for to stay awake. Mm-hmm. I calculated that. I was like, man, that's a lot of money. And when you're putting it in the right place, 20, 30 years down the road, you'll be in a better position. Most people start too late, but the goal is to start looking at ways that you can, save money and just put together a strategy so that you can either retire early, maybe put a business up, whatever you're feeling you want to do.
Yeah.
I would just say to always have a plan, and be resourceful. There's never a lack of resources. There's just a lack of resourcefulness. I was very resourceful, meaning I would ask everybody, who do they know? And that's like somebody told me, because we did an assessment of like personalities and dogs, and they said that I was a hound. What's that? Greyhound, with the puppy eyes. Because I would ask everybody for help. I would say, who do you know? Like, can you introduce me to that person? Can you introduce me? Yeah. So I was always like wanting to know like what are people doing so that we can get ahead, kind of thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, absolutely it does.
Have a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think planning is essential on an individual basis, right? In the industry you're in now, you're also a leader. You have team below you. So how important is it you can't be much more than 20 at this point, but
Me?
for your the people that you're mentoring, how important is it for you to kind of guide them to that planning or through that planning process? So for me as a leader in the businesses that I own, as well as the businesses that I work with, development plans, right? Talent cards, incentivizing, all these sort of things are tools that we can use to get people from where they're at to where they want to be or where we want them to be, right? How important is that for you in the aspect of, I think they're kind of supposed to be self-initiators, but maybe you have to do some of the fire starting for them?
When as you were speaking, the thing that comes to mind is when I'm doing helping somebody put a plan together or mentoring them, I cannot say anything to them that I have not done myself. So that's very big.
Yeah.
So people will feel it, and people will, if you haven't done it and you're asking somebody to do it,
Call BS.
it's not congruent.
Yeah.
To what you believe in, what you're trying to ask of somebody to do, right? So, when I'm sitting down with somebody, like whatever stage in life they're in, like everybody's going through something, right?
Yeah.
And talking about finances is like being naked in front of somebody sometimes. It's very personal.
Yeah.
So, I always make sure that I can relate to them. Like I've been here before. Like then that goes back to my story. Like what sharing my story, what I've gone through, makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. And it's important for them to understand that, hey, whatever it is, whatever you're going through, so that they open up. We're here to help. Like we're here to help you. And it's important as I'm helping somebody put a plan together that I really listen to what their goals and dreams are, because a lot of times we forget our goals and our dreams. We never think about it,
Yeah.
Like if I asked you right now, like, close your eyes and like, what does your dream life look like? I ask that to a lot of people. They don't even know.
Yeah, I'd be one of those that I don't know. The best thing I could say to that is that I've always got something to work on, because that's kind of what drives. I like to be doing things right?
Yeah.
When it gets, I guess, normal, I'm bored and I'm anxious.
I think it's your just personality. That's
I like
and a
hectic.
visionary entrepreneur. Kind of like wants the next big thing.
Yeah, and I like also. I mean, I can admit I like the weeds too.
Yeah.
I still like the weeds, and that's something that it's been difficult for me in my transitions. My chapters of going like, how do you not get down in those weeds and make sure that you build the staff, build the pillars that you need so that all of that's handled and you can get a reporting level that allows you to look at the horizon still.
I have something.
Healthcare, finance, it's changing so quickly, right?
I got something to say to that. There is a point in business where you're working in your business and then on your business.
Yeah, I think did I say this last week, Pago?
Yeah.
Like, working on your business or in your business, 100%.
And sometimes as entrepreneurs, we have to be able to identify when it calls for which stage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But luckily, nowadays, because of technology, because of automation, because of like AI, how fast things are going, there's so many systems and platforms you can implement into your business that I've even like, done as far as like minimizing the manual tasks it would have to take me to do. I can just replace it with a click of a button.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like me and my best friends, we saw the need of like small business owners, how that's one of their biggest challenges. Like how do they look at their business working in it and then being to that place where they're working on it to grow it and scale it.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the time it boils down to efficient marketing, because marketing is like everything nowadays with competition.
Yeah.
Automation, like your business is open 24/7, even though you're not physically there.
Yeah.
Through setting up campaigns and automations like text messages and like somebody's going to reach out to you.
Yep.
So we've built AI powered software, marketing and automation software that helps small businesses. So
Oh wow, what's that called?
OmniFlows.
I think you mentioned this to me.
Yeah, OmniFlows.
Not long ago. So I definitely got to look back in it.
Yeah.
So it automates all
Your
of
marketing, it automates like your missed call text back of like, if let's say you're a realtor or you're like a business owner, you can't answer your phone all the time, but you don't want to miss on that lead, or you don't want to miss on that person.
Did we talk about that I'm supposed to be looking at this because we've got 7 days a week, certain hours. We went overseas with some of our partners, and we've got a few staff that will make sure that calls are answered and inbound and outbounds handled every day. But after those hours, we're done. So I think it'd be something that we should probably take a look at in the very near future.
So I like to be a problem solver.
Yeah.
Like I'm like you, I like the next big thing. Like I'm like keeping myself on my toes, but I've planted my flag in the financial industry because I know for a fact that because of the times that we're in, everybody needs help regardless in some way, shape, or form with their money.
Yeah.
Right. And because of the baby boomers, because of the, we're in the biggest and largest wealth transfer in history.
Right.
As we speak. So, take advantage of, the times that we're in. And
I mean, it's kind of the same tagline or pitch for financial services as it is for healthcare as well. Like when you look at that transfer, and you look at all the baby boomers that are falling into long-term care and into remote patient monitoring and what's the other stuff called CCM, chronic care management and transitional care management, all these CPT codes that Medicare has, right? And Medicare actually keeps throwing dollars at because of that transfer.
Yep. It's called the Silver Tsunami.
Silver Tsunami.
Yeah.
What's the number again of baby boomers?
There are around 70 million baby boomers. There's 10,000 retiring every single day.
Wow.
That are turning 65 years old every single day.
Yeah.
And everything, follows the baby boomers, right?
Right.
So the top 3 industries, coming up, that are, lucrative, you're going to make money no matter what, is always going to be healthcare, finance, and tech right now as we speak, like in this day and age right now. Yeah.
So Gisella, you had the 10 years in the U.S., 10 years in the Philippines, come back, first job, monumental, life-changing event with the car accident, and then movement into the financial services and financial product and education. Is there another chapter to that, or is there an extension to the chapter? Like what's going on today?
So fintech is a very big fintech, insurtech, and that's where we've transitioned into that space with our platform. Our platform is looking to go public in the next 7 years.
Oh wow!
So we are expanding dramatically, looking for people that want to find an opportunity to make extra income, or even find they're passionate about money. They want to make a difference. They want to be somebody, because what I love about our platform is not just the fintech side, but also the leadership and the culture that, you're going to win, because everything rises and falls on leadership. You can have a great product, but bad leadership is not going to work. Right.
I gotta tell you a secret. So we met through other leaders in your industry. I got to thank you because you've actually never, ever said, hey, let's do this, let's do that. But you've always been willing to give me information. So I'm going to say it in a different way. You've never tried to sell me anything, but you've always been willing to go to bat for me when I have questions about anything. And we're going to do something together. I think we talked about that. But in relation to what you just said about the leadership in the industry, I actually dabbled, right? And did some licensing. And I think at one point I had introduced you to my oldest daughter, at least by text. Oh, yeah, she was out here, so you met her today. I think the same thing. I kind of looked at that industry and I was like, man, I want to go get some training. I don't know if I'll use it for what they're training me for, but I can tell you that I got a lot of good mentorship from people in the financial industry, not just in relation to tools for taxation or planning, but in relation to just business as a whole, mindset,
personal development.
All of that. I mean, just you think about owning a business, like it's not easy. It's a lot of sacrifice, and it's kind of like the gym when you go. Right? You
don't want to do it.
Like you get what you put in.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? You get what you put in, and if you stay consistent
and disciplined,
then all of a sudden you come out jacked. Right? and I've seen it from people in your industry that, day number 1, it was like, no, they're never gonna, and day number 500 and day number 1,000, all of a sudden they're up in the front of the pack teaching people. So let's dive in a little bit to the mindset that we've been talking about, the entrepreneur mindset, the win or lose mindset, but I think we're picking winning.
Yes.
What can you say about that mindset in your pathway into the people that you're developing? What's the necessary mindset to win and to not have to learn the lessons that we've been talking about?
Interesting that you asked that, because 95% of the population in America are employee mindset.
Yeah.
Right? It's safety, like I put my time in, I get a paycheck, right? And entrepreneurship is not for everyone, because if it were easy, everybody would do it, right? So, and there has to be employees, right? So it's built, entrepreneurship is not for the weak-minded, it's for the growth and strong-minded, because it's tough, right? But having the mindset of abundance versus security, I would always tell people when they get into business, having the mindset okay, they have to have a strategy. I wouldn't quit what they're doing right now, right? But start something while you're working, right? So that you can understand how it feels, so that you don't set yourself up for failure, because if you just jump into it right away, then you use up all your savings, and then it comes back to my dad teaching me about the bamboo tree. I don't know if you've ever heard the story. The bamboo tree, when you plant it, you have to water it every single day, no matter what. You have to nurture it, and nothing sprouts for 5 years. For 5 years, you got to water it, you got to talk to it, you got to love it, as if it was growing, right? If you miss a day, it's not going to grow as tall as what it would have if you didn't miss a day. So after the 5 years, it shoots 90 feet tall.
Wow.
Okay? And you think about that in business, right? So I always tell people, just because you're not seeing the results that you expect, because people have this instant gratification mindset nowadays. They want it now, right?
Yep.
But business doesn't work that way, right? You have to continue as long as you're consistent and disciplined and keep on putting in the work, making the calls, reaching out, mastering your skill set, mastering your craft, learning the language, doing the boring things that you don't want to do, because that's the things that you need to do to get to where you want to be, and doing it routinely and consistently.
Yeah.
After that 5th year, you'll notice what the last 5 years are doing is actually building your character, building your strength, building your mental toughness. Even you're going to get rejections, you're going to have no's, but every no that is going to lead to a yes. Knowing what's at the end of it, just like the bamboo tree, it's going to shoot up. You'll see it in every business, how that first 5 years,
Yeah.
it's like hard work,
Yeah.
right? You got to put the time in. There's nothing comes in life for free, right? But as you keep doing it, you'll see your business grows like just like the bamboo tree, 90 feet tall.
Yeah.
And so having that
I feel
mindset.
behind now that you said 5 years. It's been 15 for me. I think we've had constant growth, but in the 10th to 15th year, we saw kind of like if we miss some watering, we're probably okay. We've got more of an established, presence in an industry that is kind of niche.
Yeah, and I think
as far as dialysis.
yeah, it depends on the type of industry that you're into, because laws change a lot. You got to pivot with, and especially with what happened with COVID. We had to pivot. A lot of people have to pivot their businesses. A lot of people, just be ready for the punches that you get when you're in business.
I don't know why this question came up, but there's that time, like you said, 5 years. To me, it's 10 to 15. But have you heard the word straw man before? So, like, I've had experiences in my journey of trying to kind of climb in the same industry for the most part, dialysis, nephrology, where there are people, I'll call them like the guards, that hold like a lot of secret or access. So, I need to talk to this person, but this person is the straw man in the way. You can't talk to this person without this person.
Yeah.
And I've literally had to wait for changing of the guards in certain scenarios. Have you had any experience like that in either the nursing side or the financial side, where it's like somebody's
always
solidly in your way?
I try to make friends with that person.
Love your enemy, huh?
Yeah, because if you can't beat them, you gotta just join them, kind of thing. I don't think I've experienced that in a drastic sense. I think it depends. I guess it's different in dialysis. How does that work? Is it like more of like, is it like the person? Who is that person that blocks?
Well, I would say that, and I think it's a great kind of segue towards like corporate mindset versus entrepreneurial mindset, because there are massive organizations that anybody would love to work for. Like, I'd love to work for a Fortune 100 company, right? I mean, at a certain level, like, you're with a Fortune 100 company, you're taking a great ride, right? But that's not an entrepreneur, right? That's a contributor to a corporate agenda, right? And then there's the entrepreneur over here. So I would say more on the corporate side.
Like, there's a lot of red tape?
I've seen a lot of that. And it's kind of like, I'll give examples of like, hopefully nobody's going to kill me for this, but like,
I understand
HR, in certain organizations, like, stop you from moving
to get to the person that's going to write the check or make the decision, right?
Or to,
that happens.
when it talks about a corporate, you could talk to, like, let's say the top.
But they have to get approval.
But then there's like regulation under HR of like, how do you talk to everybody with it under the umbrella?
I've been through those. Yeah. Like I would know the person that like owns it, but because of corporate, approval, it doesn't go the way it's planned, right?
Yeah.
So I think the easiest way is really, if it's either a person that's blocking it, right? See what they can do, because they probably want into the deal, or I don't know. I don't even think that's allowed, right? You can't even do that at work. It's a conflict of interest.
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of just the notion of what is it, honey versus vinegar or whatever for the flies, right? Like you said, get closer to those that you could think of as enemies or blockers. Or resistors, like, get closer to them to find, bring them into the agenda, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's because it's their ego, right? Their ego, or I just try to make friends with them, see what value I can bring them so that they like me, and then want to want to bring me to the person that makes the decision.
Yep.
Or sometimes I would just
go around, circumvent.
Because if that person I can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially in corporate, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's conflict of interest. You can't really do anything.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice, right? But you know that whatever you're bringing value to the table is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, the person that's going to make the decision, it's up, at the end of the day, it's still up to them.
I mean, creative deal making applies differently to corporate and than to like a straight entrepreneur effort.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's kind of go over there.
Okay.
We met through. I know it's an entrepreneurial endeavor as financial services, and but we also dove into like kind of just one-offs, new ventures, especially during the time of COVID, where there was just this whole new need for stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it be like a way to make this table clean and,
Oh, yeah.
clear of any sort of pathogen or methods of providing service to people who needed it during COVID, and things that weren't even related to COVID. So when we go down that road and we say, okay, creative deal making, you all of a sudden get in this circle of people who can be salesy,
Yes.
and just wanting to move something because they're going to make a sale, to somebody who's really innovative and believes in what they've developed or what a team has developed with them. You can get into crooks and people who are just, trying to raise some money and run away.
Yeah.
So, like, what are your experiences on that side of it, the entrepreneurial, and what sort of cautions would you advise to people out there when they're, because like I said, you've passed plenty of great opportunities across my desk. Some of them just I can't afford. But what's the secret
I've
to
learned,
finding
yeah.
the right circle or the right networking?
I've learned a lot. It's trial and error in the beginning. You'll win some, you lose some, and you'll find out who are real and who's not.
Yeah.
But I've learned through that process to really look at the person that's doing the deal, right? What's their credibility in the industry? What do people say about them? There's the internet. You can always look online for, if you have to, search their background.
Right.
Right? You need to know who you're talking to because what's on the line is your credibility and your reputation also.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go right, right? I look at what they say and what they do if it's congruent. Because that, for me, you can say everything you want, but if you're not doing doing it, then it's kind of hard for me to believe that this person's real, kind of thing. And when it comes to creative deal making, I always want to make sure that it's a win-win-win situation. Win for everybody that's involved. And if I met somebody through somebody, that I always let that person, at least know or kind of like in the loop. But I also be frank with them. Hey, I'll take it from here. Like, I don't need you to like mess up the deal. Come in between and mess up the deal. If anything happens, I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that something, like you get, because I met this person through you, et cetera, and et cetera. So, because the last thing I would
Interesting culture right there.
Yeah. Last thing I would want to happen is that, okay, I met somebody, then they feel left out because I didn't say something. But it's not like they're going to get majority of it. Something's always better than nothing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because one way or another, business world is kind of small. You're gonna end up running into each other again. So I don't like to burn bridges or like make anybody feel that they're not appreciated and the connection or whatnot. So just something, or even sometimes it's just like a thank you or or like I said, something's always better than nothing. But going back to really assessing, I now what I do now, because I don't like to get distracted from what the main goal is. Like, a lot of opportunities cross the desk, and I always get excited, right? I always get excited because I always see the possibility in things.
Yep.
But if it's not gonna align, like, this is just current, because before I've been open to everything, right? Just currently, like, if it doesn't align with what the main mission or goal is, right? And if it's not gonna be a mutual benefit. Meaning, okay, I'm going to help you, bring value to you, but you're going to also have to bring value to me.
Yeah.
I set the expectation up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be running around and like wasting time on helping somebody else when there's nothing, a return of investment in my time, doing something for like what I'm most passionate about or my priority. I guess I wouldn't say it's selfish. It's just, it's working smart, I think, because in business it has to have a mutual benefit.
Agreed.
Right? It has to have a mutual benefit. you know?
It should. It should. And, it makes me think about my career and kind of conversations of people pleasing and actually, I would say like scratching, like clawing my way to where I want to be, which still have to claw, right? I did a lot of stuff for free in my life. I mean, a lot.
I did too. I mean, I've learned.
So much. Like, hey, I want to have this skill. I want to be known for this skill. And I haven't had any credibility behind it. I would always offer it first. Like, let me do this for you. That way, that way I can get you to say like, hey, Morales cuts the lawn good, or whatever it is, right? But at this point in my career, I'm 46 now, turning 47 in a couple months. I'm also thinking that way as well, as like, effort is going to require some reward that it's monetized today. I try that as much as possible, but I also still have that mindset that, like you said, like,
it's that kind of FOMO, like you don't want to miss out on that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, also, like you said, like I don't have the W-2 mindset of like I'm going to get paid for everything I do anymore. I know that that's not going to happen. Sometimes I'm not going to get paid on it until like
later on,
10 years down the line, right? But at the same time, if I'll use COVID as an example, if you made $100 million, like I should walk away with $1 million. I don't know, something like, I'm talking about companies that we've worked for.
Yeah.
The effort should be reflective of kind of the
totality of what was contributed to the growth and
exactly. Yeah.
I believe in that.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like performance-based equity or performance-based bonuses kind of like thing. Like if you were able to contribute, because you want to give reward where reward is due.
Amen.
Yeah. So Gisella, just a couple more questions. I know it's getting late here. So last question leading to the last question. As a nurse, as somebody that helps people find wellness and health financially, whether it's today or when they need it, their retirement or circumstance, what would you say is like missing from that whole equation today, whether it's on the upstream side of like preventative health? That I come from dialysis. I focus a lot on hopefully educating people in a way that they're never going to need it. I would love if I didn't have a business that taught people how to do dialysis actually, and I could do something else, but it's a need that's there today. So what would you say is the biggest thing that's missing from health or financial wellness that you could provide some guidance on today?
I think it all boils down to, again, education and awareness. Knowledge is only powerful if it's applied, right? And so so when we talk about health, right, it kind of goes back to actually money, because I'll just give an example. When people, like, they end up buying certain, like, they buy food because it's either it's only that they can afford, right? Or they're just not aware of, like, what are the health benefits, or like I'm now reading like the labels on everything that I eat, because like it matters. Whatever you put, food is either medicine or it's a poison.
Yes.
Right. But it also, it kind of, your health is your wealth, and your wealth is equal to health also. It just goes hand in hand. Like I look back, it still boils down to like knowing, because we only know what we know. What we don't know, and we don't, it's hard to make informed decisions.
Yeah. Ignorance is an excuse, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, awareness and education, knowing, just having the proper education and actually being intentional about seeking it. And there's a lot of resources. Like we give free financial complimentary reviews and education. We have a whole platform that does that. But when it comes to health, looking at the health side, it's still, like, I think awareness and education, it still kind of boils down to that, because if you know what you can do to prevent certain things, you won't do it, right? Because like I can sit here, eat a bag of potato chips every day, and just I'll for sure end up, either with diabetes, hypertension.
Yep.
And it's just being aware. Like, I'm not saying it's bad to eat potato chips. It's just in moderation. Like, right? You need to have that, awareness. Okay, what does your body like react to? Or like, I'm a big believer in I always read stuff about health. Like for 3 months we were looking into like the blood type diet. Like, I was like, man, I didn't know that my blood type cannot eat chicken. And there was a time I wanted to lose weight. All I did, because they said red meat is not good, stay away from sugars. All I did was eat chicken, and I still didn't lose weight. And I was like, man, maybe there's a correlation to this. So I stopped eating chicken, and then I started noticing my metabolism got like better, and I would lose weight. Mm-hmm. So it's just really like, understanding like your body, and like just learning about the different things that's available out there.
Yeah.
I think that would boil down to education and awareness.
When I, as you were saying that, like I was rewinding back to when you talked about yourself in your youth as you did one describer as or descriptor as impulsive.
Oh yeah.
So like you said, we don't know what we don't know until
something happens.
Yeah, until we're exposed to it, or we're forced to learn it, right?
Yeah.
So I like the seeking it out. I love that. I think intersubjectivity, hearing different stories, knowing what things are like before you're faced with them.
Yes.
Is really, really important.
Yep.
Whether it become a life-changing circumstance that I didn't realize I wasn't planning for my financial side of things, or it's a life-changing event that, as you mentioned, related to like what we eat and how we exercise and rest and things like this that
all contribute to our health.
Yeah, we're not prepared for that either.
Yeah.
Like when things fail, right?
Yeah.
Or when we end up with wounds on our feet that can't heal, or we're going blind at an early age, and we're we don't know why, or our kidneys are failing. So thank you so much for dropping by tonight,
of course.
Gisella.
This was fun.
I want to get just, and you can take some time to think about this, but what's the heaviest piece of advice that you can give for the audience today? The one thing that you wish that you were told to avoid one of the mistakes or the impulses, the early jumps, the 6 years of whatever it might be, six years of bleeding, right?
Yeah.
What would be your heaviest piece of advice to the audience?
Okay, I have two things, actually I wanted to share. Because as I was going through my journey, I'm the type of person that wants to understand, where is this coming from? Where is this thought coming from? Like, have you ever listened to your thoughts?
Oh gosh, that's tough.
It's scary sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And then as I was going through, like, my healing journey, and I wanted to mention that there came a point with my mom, right? We actually went through therapy, and I had to understand her so that I can understand myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that what I'm trying to say is that, all of us, right? All of us have, certain traumas, and it doesn't even have to be physical or anything. It could be like, while you were growing up, or it's called arrested developments, or situations that has shaped our personality, right? And regardless if you're an employee or you are an entrepreneur, one of the biggest things I would, share with people is that finding out so that you can know yourself more. Because everything that you do, if you don't know yourself, then you won't be able to know what, like, your weaknesses that you have to work on.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of times it's the weaknesses and our things that hold us back that are actually delaying our success.
Uh-huh.
So when we there's something that I shared this with my team last week. It was if you don't heal from what or whom hurt you, and it could be anything. It could be like, for me, I realized, and I did an assessment. I realized, oh, when my parents didn't show up for my recital, I kind of held that as resentment. I had to change the whole story in my head so that it doesn't show up in my life again. So I don't people please, because all that stuff is, sabotages your success, your trajectory for getting to the next level. So going and understanding your past hurts. So if you don't heal from what or whom hurt you, you will end up bleeding on those that didn't cut you.
Yeah.
So, and that could be your team, your business partners. It could be the people that you're interacting with, because they're not going to understand like why you're acting a certain way. So healing is very important, regardless if you're in a business, if you're an employee. Everybody has to, understand their hurts. Like, it's the inner child, you're the little Gisella, little Michael that didn't get what they wanted, and it sometimes it carries through us. And we have to face those hurts because we have to sit in that pain so that we understand how to get out of it, right? So that's one thing. That was a very hard realization I had to come to terms with. And once I finally did, and be honest with myself, like sometimes it's the hardest thing to do is to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. So if people can, regardless whatever they're doing in their life, if people can get through that and deal with that, they'll get to where they want to be so much faster. They'll get to where they want to be so much faster. So if you have to heal from what or whom hurt you so that you don't bleed on those that didn't cut you, right? And you'll get to where you want to be faster. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention was if I were to go back and talk to myself, 10, 15 years ago, what I would tell myself, and I tell this to everybody, right, is to believe in yourself more. Yes, there are people around you that believe in you, but the person that needs to believe in you more is you. Right? It's because without you, it won't happen. So if I could have gotten myself to believe in myself more versus listening to like all of the negative thoughts that go through your head, oh, you can't do this, you're not. That's just a story that you made up in your mind that doesn't serve you. Right? So learning to determine who to listen to, even the thoughts in your head, will help you get to where you want to be faster. And believing in yourself faster and quicker, thinking bigger, is going to help you, regardless, whatever goal you're trying to achieve. Those are the two things that I would, really work on, or like I can give as advice when it comes to like personal development. Because either if it's in your finances, if it's in your relationship, if it's in your like those two things are going to help you get
I agree.
there faster.
I think, the healing so that you don't bleed on those that didn't cut you. I think I've heard something similar in relation to relationships, like romantic relationships, and kind of thinking about my short life here. That one is, I started dating early, right? So I can think about different relationships in my life, and I have children that are also now they've got kids and they're dating and all that. So I got 4 kids, right? But I love that. I love that one is one, don't take. I'll say it, paraphrase Morales, like don't punish somebody else for what's happened in the past, right? And then also don't let somebody else punish you for what's happened in their past. And I think that's a hard thing to reconcile in any relationship, because either I got to face myself, or I got to show you like, hey, if we're gonna do this,
you got to face your demons.
Like you can't, you can't punish me for all of that, right? And just another, thinking about the horizon and the high level view of things, right? Is like I saw something somewhere recently. I believe it was a pastor, and he was holding a mirror in front of his face, and he said, "Watch this. If I walk with the mirror in front of my face and I keep looking at what's behind me, I'm going to trip over what's in front of me."
Oh, yeah.
So that's hard to let go of, right? Our past, whether it's because we got to heal or it's because we just keep remembering, which that's already gone. But we keep looking back on something because it's a fond or it's a positive or a negative, right? I would, just compliment what you said by saying, keep the view on the horizon, keep the view on what's in front of you. I love that you do that constantly, Gisella, and I look forward to finding the thing that's going to stick to the wall with us as far as a business venture. Also look forward to learning more about, what I can do today for better planning for tomorrow on the financial front. If there's anything you need from us here at Musing with Morales, you can always call on us, and
Thank you.
we've got an open invitation anytime.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I love, how our friendship and in business and the things that we've learned from each other, there's from the start always synergy, and I love that, it's important to foster and maintain those, relationships for sure. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Paco.
This episode has been brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.